Hello guys, so today we talk about Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Is it as bad as I said it was a year ago? Well, it isn't as bad as I said it was a year ago. I was making this movie out to be like the worst Star Wars movie ever made. But it isn't the worst Star Wars movie ever made. It's actually on par with another Star Wars movie called Episode 2 Attack of the Clones. Another very in the middle of good or bad movies. So, is this movie as bad as it said it is? So I already made. I'm not gonna give. I already did the spoiler review of this movie, where I went over the leaks and stuff, said how horrible the leaks were, but how badly did it translate to a movie? So the movie is essentially the most generic a movie could possibly be. Basically, as if Disney actually made Star Wars into a Disney princess tale where the princess, overcomes and stuff. Yeah, those princess movies Disney used to make all those years ago, but they still make them now, like Moana. But I'm talking about the old 90s princess movies and stuff. But most princess movies usually have the princesses actually doing stuff. This movie feels like one of those movies, but even worse. I'm gonna take it because the movie's in the middle, so it's in the middle. So actually, my review is now alongside the Rotten Tomatoes score of this movie. There are some good parts of the movie. Yes, there are some good parts of the movie, but there are some bad parts of the movie. Some of the good parts include some of the okay. We'll get to the bad parts first. I get the good parts. The bad parts include the Palpatine fight. Oh yes, the Palpatine fight. The very anticlimactic ending scene where Kylo Ren somehow survives his fall and comes and trades his life to get rid of to make Rey come back to life, or the ending scene. Well, basically, it says Rey who and yep, and she doesn't want to associate herself with Mr. Palpatine anymore, so she changes her name to Skywalker, basically stealing someone else's last name. And then let's go to the good part. So the earlier scenes are pretty good. So the earlier fight scenes are pretty good in this movie. But scenes like especially the scene where they invade the area, invade the ship, or some of the scenes in the earlier parts of the movie seem like they had some effort put into the movie. But it seems that like Fantastic Four, the rest of the movie was just rushed out. So again, it's like, oh look, we have to give Star Wars some ending. So because the last movie was so horrible that we had to give it some. And unlike the Revenge of the Sith, they kind of made it more underwhelming. Revenge of the Sith had an amazing ending. This movie had a meh ending. That's the difference between both this movie and Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is a great movie because of its ending, because of its storyline, because of how Anakin became betrayed. It shows how Anakin became evil and betrayed the Jedi. But this movie, it just says Rey wins because we have to make her win because he's the main character. Kind of like that generic, movie where you have the main character has to win at the end because of some plot convenience or something like that. And some, miracle happens, the main character wins and somehow lives. Kind of like how that generic story archetype always is. That's how it is. And that's why people had criticisms of the new Dragon Ball Super show when that was coming out. It was kind of just the Goku and Vegeta show. Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker so really be called Rey A Star Wars Story Part 3. Because that's what it really is. Most of the other characters are just the side characters. It is really just Rey A Star Wars Story because that's what the entire movie is about. There's these characters that were introduced in the sequel trilogy that were just casted aside. For example, Poe and Finn. In the original Star Wars trilogy, Han Solo and Leia were important characters. Yes, there's movies were mostly about Luke Skywalker, but you had stuff with those two characters. They weren't the side characters. They were integral parts to the plot line of these Star Wars movies. But most of these side characters were just strapped to the side so you can have Kylo Ren and Rey movie to part 3, because that's what the movie should really be called in this movie. Most of these characters that they introduced are essentially just side characters and will likely be forgotten characters in the Star Wars universe. And it's not just this movie that suffers the same problem. Dragon Ball Super suffers the same problem as well. You have this big cast of characters, but the thing with Dragon Ball Super is that we already know these characters. If you already watched the previous parts of Dragon Ball, you already know Yamcha, Krillin, and all these other characters because they already had their character arcs, and that's why they're side characters. Even characters like Videl already had her character arc in the Buu saga. These Ben and Poe have very incomplete character arcs and are just side characters, essentially, in this movie. And it's just, why? Why do you make, and especially a character like Rose Tico. She was basically sacted to basically only appearing for like a few seconds of the movie, and she essentially does nothing in the movie. Basically, they take these characters that they made and just make them non in the movie. Another thing they did was Leia dies in the movie, but she's dead in real life, so he can't really. Basically, that's all he really had to work with was scenes that they shot before this movie came out, before she died in real life. So they had to do do something with her, and they did the right thing because he is dead in real life. So they have to do the deeds in the movie. It was pretty sad as well, but. They did. She died in real life, so she dies in the movies. That's essentially how it is. Very sad, and it was and yep, basically all of the original trilogy members are now gone in this movie. But yeah, this movie wasn't a massive FU to the original trilogy like the second movie was, where they really just killed off Luke Skywalker for no reason. This movie, they had a reason to kill off Leia because he was dead in real life, because they couldn't really have much footage of her in the movie, so it kind of made sense that they had to get rid of her because she died in real life. There was also some other really cringy moments that were pretty funny, like they fly now. I thought that I actually laughed at that scene because it was just so cringeworthy. It was funny. And then just the rest of this movie was just like, okay, Ray trains and stuff. Oh yay, she's doing Dragon Ball. She's doing the same thing that Piccolo does in his training. I don't know why I keep comparing Star Wars to Dragon Ball. But yep, I don't know why I keep comparing Star Wars to Dragon Ball. Oh yeah, another example of this is Sonic the Hedgehog. I can go over many more examples of series basically turn to the main character always wins. It's just a bad story type archetype that we really, there. It's really different if that's like it's Star Wars, and again, the thing that makes Star Wars much different than most of these others, the main character always wins, because Star Wars they established a lot of these other characters in the series, and they failed to establish these characters. That's the whole problem with Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker and the sequel trilogy in a nutshell. Episode 7 was great. They introduced all these good new characters that they could establish for the new movies, but they failed to establish these characters. They failed to do it. And that is one of the biggest problems with this movie, is that they failed to establish these new characters besides Rey, and Kylo Ren, which are the only characters they seem to care about throughout the sequel trilogy. They shafted again Poe, Finn, and all these other characters. Basically it should be really, and it's funny how Rose Tico is even on the cover, but he's essentially only in the movie for like 1 minute as well. So really, there was really nothing else left to talk about this movie. This movie is just another brand Disney product. It's like Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet. You take these established characters and ruin them. Ralph Breaks the Internet at least had a decent ending, unlike this movie, which knocks it down to a 5 out of 10, which is my final score. Ralph Breaks the Internet got a 6 out of 10 in my review. But this movie isn't that great. It isn't that bad. It's not deserving of the top 10, top 15 movies of the year. Definitely not. It should be in the middle of that list. So, yep, this movie isn't that great. And basically, it's just a movie that everybody's just gonna forget about in this series. Oh yeah, and also they brought back Palpatine. Remember? They didn't even explain the fact that they brought him back. Oh yeah, we really love the fact that they don't want to explain you anything. So that's basically it. Goodbye.